Hey everybody, grab your Bible, a pencil, and a journal, and maybe even a cup of coffee, and join in on our conversation. But first, I would love for you to write this down. Matthew 25, verses 22 and 23. And he also, who had the 2 talents, came forward, saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here, I have made 2 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little, and I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master.
Hey everyone, Happy New Year and welcome back to Write This Down with Bowens. My name is Cara. I am Dot's daughter, and every week we sit down together and we talk through scripture or what God might be teaching us. And we've been gone for the last couple of weeks and we've missed you guys. So we are jumping back into 2026, talking about how can we face this next year and be faithful to what God has given us and what does that look like. So we would love for you to pull up a chair and join us in this conversation. Happy New Year.
2026.
Here we are.
We have traded our little red hats to a sunshiny, pinky day.
I know. We do look like spring.
Yeah, we do.
Spring has not sprung.
Exactly.
But yeah.
And even though I hope everybody had a great Christmas and
Happy New Year.
Excited about the new year. And we kind of dropped off a little bit. Our last little conversation was about the elderly son, doing things for the father to get the father's
prodigal
approval.
Sons. Yes.
And now we're going to jump right into 2026, thinking about longing and desiring to hear Jesus say to us, well done, good and faithful servant. Mm-hmm. And of course, we always want to please God, I think.
Yeah.
I think so. And I think that this parable, Cara, just to kind of give us a little intro into this, really kind of comes off of the same parable of the prodigal son. If you go back into Luke, there's the parable of the lost corn, and just Jesus is talking in parables, and he's talking, the Sermon on the Mount, and he's talking to the crowd, and I'm sure that the parable of the talents. So many of us almost get mad and think, I wish I had that talent, or I wish I had that gift. We do a lot of gift.
Well, are they talents or are they coins?
They're coins. Oh. But it's kind of the same thing. It's what God's given us.
Yeah.
And how you're going to maximize the things that God has given us, whether it's our time, which we talked about, whether it's our talents, whether it's, the things that God has given us. How do we use it for God's glory? And just to make sure, and I really pray that whoever's in this conversation will go back and look at our last discussion, because that was a heavy discussion about a different mindset of why we do what we do, and a different motivation of doing that. And the same is true here, I think, with the talents and the things that God is using this as Jesus is using this as a parable. And the bottom line in all of these is not about the talents or not about the coins or whatever. It's about the motivation and why we are
which
using
is like
the
going
things that God's given us.
Yeah, it's like looking into the new year, next year. It's like, okay, well, how do I want to be a good steward and faithful
my time and my
to what God has given us or given you? But before we get into that, do you have a word for this year?
Well,
you don't have to share it if you don't want to, but
I do.
I know last year we talked about
our words.
At our first episode of 2025 was about our words and just how God has used that. And I don't know if you had a word, though you don't have to go into it. You don't have to say it.
I have a word because
I don't have a word yet.
But we better hurry get on.
I know. I kind of not that I forgot about it, but I also
and again
didn't think about
it. Before we get into the talents, I guess we need to say the word. Our family gets together, and it's something that is on our hearts, that we feel like that as we begin the new year, that there's something, or a principle, or a word that kind of sums up something that is got our attention. Yeah. Like want to concentrate and think about.
Like my word for 2025 was pray.
Mm-hmm. And mine was believe. This year, mine is time. Oh. And I didn't mention that when we talked about time.
Well, no, I didn't know.
just being able to look at the time that I have and make it be glorifying to God, which does.
Which, it's
by
like
the way,
being,
jump right into this
yeah,
whole thing is that whatever we have, whether it's time, opportunity to pray, all the spiritual disciplines that we talked about over, in December and November was that thinking about how can we best use this to glorify God. And that's exactly what the talents is talking about. What Jesus is discussing to the crowd really is about faith. It's really about trusting God. And so he uses the parable of the talents, and he gives one person 5, he gives one 2, and then gives one 1. And then the last one, he said, well, he talks about his view of God. Master, I know you're very careful about, he said, I know you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid my talent. And I didn't read that because I read the very middle part of it.
Yeah.
Because the whole issue, whether you have 5 talents, whether you have 2, you have 1, the reason that God was pleased with the first 2 is that they weren't afraid. They trusted God to take what they had,
whatever they did
and
with
make it more.
Yeah, whatever they did with it, they trusted God with it. Whether they,
or it doesn't matter if it's 5, 2, 3, 1, 9.
Right.
And again, I think our last conversation, we were talking about how important it is, to have faith and to trust God and our motivation behind it. And this is kind of like extending that. So as we get into 2026, I think we're going to have to step aside and think about, okay, for the year ahead, we don't even know we have a year.
Yeah.
We don't know we have weeks. We don't know we have months. We don't know what we have. But today we can look at that and go, am I trusting God for what he has given me? Can I trust God for not look at someone else and say, well, you got 5 or you have 1.
Or be afraid to do something with what you have. Like I think there can be wisdom in saving, like being not just squandering and not just saving money, but if it's like, oh, I don't know if I want to use this resource yet, or, maybe you don't know how to, there's discernment and wisdom. But I think fear, like it says, like he was afraid, like that was what was in his heart. So that's
which is interesting too, Cara, because when Jesus is telling this parable, he makes a point that this guy is kind of defending the fact that he did not expand. He's kind of like, almost like a sales talk. Master, I know that, you're a hardworking man, and he's almost setting it up like
he's excusing it.
He's excusing of his, like of not being able to use what God's given him. And I think, again, and we want to say this, is that the whole point is that these people were given the talents. So this isn't something that they earned. And that goes back to our last conversation. This is a gift that God's given us. And whether you want to, and so many people do this, they take tests on what's their personality traits, what's their spiritual gift, what's the things that, that they've been given by God to be used by God.
Yeah.
And so often we can switch that to almost be prideful of this is something I can do. Why doesn't everybody, like if you have a spiritual gift of mercy, and then you and you have a friend that's a gift of prophecy, that person that has the gift of mercy often will look at somebody at prophecy and go, why can't you be more kind? And then the guy or the girl that has the gift of prophecy can look at the person with mercy and go, you need to be more stern. You need to not just feel sorry for these people and tell them the truth. And we'll begin to almost take our gifts and be prideful that we have this gift. Well, it was given to you, so you don't have, it wasn't something you did or you earned.
Yeah.
And I think for what Jesus is talking about is whatever God's given you, trust God to fulfill what he's given you. And that doesn't have to be talents. That may be your circumstances.
Yeah.
It may be anything.
Yeah, like walking through your circumstances, how you walk through your circumstances and being a good steward of that. I think that I feel convicted a lot about how to steward my time because I can tend to, if I have so much, I can get overwhelmed and just shut down and not do anything. And that's not good.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's something just always wanting to be, not wanting to be convicted. That's something that I'm always convicted of when that happens is, and not saying I can't have a moment, but the way it plays out in my life is it can,
but
I can feel like I'm not stewarding my time well.
And that doesn't help, does it? If the more that you worry about it or think about it or, like stress over it, it doesn't really it doesn't motivate you to do that. So it's actually the very thing that's stopping you.
Yeah. But it does where God's given us a day today, and how do I want to use that or whatever resources he's given me, whether that be personality or circumstances, physical resources. I do want to, use that well because it's a gift. It's just like if you, gift you gave me for Christmas, like I want to, like I don't want to just squander it or just be like, throw it aside. So I don't really know how that will play out for, like I do think it's like looking at the next year. Again, we don't know that we have a year.
But today.
But to be just more aware, and I want to be faithful to what God's given me because, like we said, it's a gift.
And I think that's the start. If God has given you a job, if he's given you children, if he's given you a husband, if he's given you singleness, if he's given you a hard situation, if you're struggling with a life like Job, you're a modern day Job, or whatever situation that we're in, we can use whatever situation that we're in by trusting God to make the best of today. So with the talents and the coins and all of these things, it was making use, it was multiplying. It was making the best use of what God's given you. God did not require any of them to do more than what he'd already given them. In other words, they used it and multiplied it. But the accountability was the fact that they were so afraid they wouldn't use it. But the ones that did use it and trusted God, he
entrusted them with more too.
The more that you can, and I do that with moms, do that with children. We do that with people. Like we don't treat everybody the same. We shouldn't, but we know what some people can handle and what some people cannot, and so we have to be okay with what we do have the stuff. But I think the key of it is, in all of these things, is going back to the importance of trusting God and knowing the heart of God and knowing that God has given us this day. And I'm sure that I've shared this 100 times on any of our conversations because this has been an aha moment for me many, many years ago. And I don't know how I ever really began to establish this habit, but at night when I go to bed and I'm just about to close my eyes, I look back in my mind and I think about the day. And I think, and I literally think to my mind, God, when I close my eyes, if I wake up in your presence and you say to me, sugar pie, because that's how God talks to me, sugar pie, how was your day? How was the day?
How did you use your day?
How did you use this day? And I don't want to say, well, I worried myself to death.
Yeah.
I was worried about this. I didn't know for sure if you can come through.
Yeah.
I found out about the kids or, worried about our finances. What I would love to say, and I'm not perfect on this, but I try to keep this as my mentality. What I want to say is, God, Jesus, I talked to you all day today about this. I talked to you about my struggles with the kids. I talked to you about fearing. I talked to you about my lack of faith. And I want to feel like that whatever, if I were to go see Jesus, I'd have that mentality.
I think though, it's the heart though, because some people would think that and be like, well, I want to be able to say, look at all I did for you. But that's not what God, it's more of, it's your heart. It's not
and
looking
what
at
can we
it.
Do for God anyway?
Yeah, like what not looking at it through the performance lens, but saying, because that's what he wants. He wants our hearts.
I trusted
and
you.
And of course, there's we can live that out in certain ways, but because I know that you pray that at night, and I don't do it every night, but some nights I do that. And there have been days where I would beat myself up because I'm like, well, I didn't do a lot today, but I did trust him, or I did, surrender the situation to him, or I spent time in prayer. I did, so yeah, I think it's more of just, living our days with the eternal perspective, in the sense of God does not need at the end of our lives for us to hand him our checked off to-do list. But there is an element where it's like, they worked in Eden. So, I just think there's a balance where it's like doing things with excellence, living life and being good stewards of that. But also I think like making like your heart, and again, going back to like our last conversation in 2025, where it's just the why, like what's your motivation? Are you doing it?
Your heart.
Yeah. Doing it because you love the Lord, or is it just because your performance and trying to, win his affection when you don't need to win it?
I think that we get so caught up in what we have and what we don't have as far as talents. Like, well, I can't sing. I think I can. And I sing out loud when nobody's here, and everybody appreciates that when nobody's here. But we think, well, I can't sing, or I can't teach, or we look at what we don't have or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't think God asks us to be accountable for what we don't have.
Right.
But I think that when we decide to follow Jesus, we have the Holy Spirit. Everybody has that has given their life to Jesus and been born again. They have the Holy Spirit. So we all have that. And we can all trust God to strengthen us and lead us and direct us to do what he's asked us to do at that moment. He's not asking you to live as if, you have eternity. But then again, he doesn't want you to live as if today's the only day you have. And what I mean by that is that there's just this, you always need to look at with an eternal perspective. But then again,
but you don't want to
be stifled and think, oh, I've got forever to live this.
Right.
So there's always this balance. And I just feel like that for me, as I, reading these parables, it, always, makes me just like, Jesus, just come out and tell us what you want to say.
Yeah.
Quit talking about parables. But I do think that this is what is so important, is that we see that Jesus is discussing all of the things that we struggle with. And always the bottom line is just trust me.
Yeah.
Just trust me. And don't make excuses. Check your heart and just do what I ask you to do. And what I love is that God never asks us to do anything he's not already equipped us to do.
Yeah.
So with the talents was given.
Yeah.
So it's not like, well, I'm out running around trying to find my talent.
Right.
So wherever we are, whatever we're facing today, and whatever circumstances we find ourselves in, having to trust God in all of those moments is not something we come up on our own to do. We have the power within, and you've heard me say this so many times. There's nothing that you and I will ever face today that God's not already given us the empowerment to do.
He'll help us do it. Yeah.
And so I feel like that's where really the talent of in my opinion, of the talents and the, lost coins and all of the parables, Jesus is really trying to look at every area of our lives down here on earth and try to encourage us, whether he's using examples or not, of how to live a life that is an enjoyment, enjoying
him, enjoying what he's given us.
That's right.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I think I definitely want to approach this year. I just want to be faithful like that. Like I want to be faithful to what he's given me. And that doesn't mean, I don't want to be productive. I want to be faithful. And I think that's the shift that I want to make in my own life. We'll see what happens, but
yeah. And we didn't really plan this, but as I look back over some of the things we've talked about, all through November and December, was the spiritual disciplines and stuff. And these are the things these are like talents. These are like things that God has given us to help us to grow and become in a deeper, stronger relationship with Him, and for us to enjoy life to the fullness. That's life worth living. 2026, let's do it.